Victoria 3 rank and prestige in Dev Diary 18. Ooh, let's have a look at that. So, what do we have? We have the rank and the rank mechanics, the different kinds of powers we'll see, minor powers, major powers, unrecognized powers, all kinds of things here. And there's more, of course, prestige, tier of a country, large armies, everything that is connected to prestige. So let's dive into the details, and we can already see some very prestigious people here. So we have rank and prestige, two interconnected mechanics that play a very central role in how diplomatic matters play out in the game Victoria 3. Rank is a mechanic that also existed in previous Victoria games, and it's a measure of how glorious and influential a country is in the eyes of the rest of the world. What rank a country has, be it a mighty great power or a largely irrelevant unrecognized power, is determined by two factors. First is prestige, explained below, and recognition. So what's recognition? It's important to note that we're not talking about recognition in the more commonly used term when applying to nation, that is, whether other countries recognize the nation's independence and existence in the first place. Rather, it's a measure of whether the reigning, probably mostly European great powers as a whole, see that country as a potential equal. Whether the country could potentially be included as a decision maker in the said system if they grew strong enough. So, are you one of the great powers of the world? Not going to go too deep into the specific topic, maybe in a later Dev Diary. The gist of it is that countries start the game either unrecognized or recognized. Unrecognized countries have to gain or force recognition in order to properly climb the rank ladder. You can see the rank ladder below. We'll come to that later. That system replaces the civilized-uncivilized system of Victoria 1 and 2. And the difference from those games is that being an unrecognized country is purely a diplomatic status with diplomatic penalties. A country does not become inherently worse at constructing factories or fighting wars by virtue of being scorned by Metternich and his friends, though many countries with unrecognized status do also start out on the lower end of the technological scale, understandably. Otherwise they would be recognized, probably. But maybe there's also some big empires with low technological stature or low infrastructure that might be recognized because of their great power. So, though it has among the highest prestige ratings in the world, for example, Qing's status as an unrecognized country severely limits its potential rank among the nations of the world. So one of the Chinese empire, the Qing, you can see here. So they have an overall score position of 80 in the world. That's really terrible for such a big one. It has a lot of prestige, 1122. And the prestige of Great Qing is reduced below 55 for an extended time. So all the prestige they have doesn't count, at least diplomatically. Their rank will decrease to unrecognized minor power. They cannot achieve a higher rank than unrecognized power due to their unrecognized country status, limiting them to a maximum score position of 80 in the world. So they're the highest unrecognized power, unrecognized country. So all in all, there's 6 different ranks. 6. That a country can occupy in Victoria 3, as well as a special 7th rank that only applies to decentralized, non-playable nations. So we have great power. That's the best rank, probably. These are the most powerful and glorious of nations and often have a global reach, getting involved in far-off conflicts. The most obvious example of a great power at the start of the game is Great Britain. Then major powers, these are regional powerhouses that often decide the course of conflicts in their home regions and may have a limited global presence. Example of a major power at the start of the game is the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies in Italy. Minor power, these are regional powers that may be important for determining how a local conflict in their home region turns out, but are generally irrelevant on the world stage. An example of a minor power at the start of the game is Mexico. So minor power is really not that minor, because Mexico is quite powerful still. And then we have probably the majority of the nations are insignificant. These are nations that generally do not even have the ability to influence the outcome of local conflicts and can be safely ignored by anyone other than other insignificant powers in their immediate vicinity. An example of an insignificant power at the start of the game is the free city of Krakow. Then we have the unrecognized powers. These are unrecognized powers that are powerful and prestigious enough to throw their weight on a regional stage, try to resist the demands of the recognized powers, and to be a potential candidate for recognition. An example of an unrecognized power at the start of the game is the Qing Empire. And unrecognized minor powers, that's falling down the ladder to the total cellar. These are unrecognized powers that generally lack the power to go up against anyone other than the weakest of recognized powers, and will often find themselves at the mercy of great and major powers and having to play them against each other to survive. An example of an unrecognized minor power at the start of the game is the Kingdom of Nepal. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, that's out there. That's out there. Nepal is a beautiful country, but of course, where should its riches come from? That's a good question, right? It doesn't have many riches and powers. It just has it has a sort of cultural, very high cultural value, but you cannot fight on the power grounds with culture alone. So then what benefits do ranks confer? The higher countries rank, the more influence capacity it generates, allowing for greater freedom in conducting diplomacy and signing diplomatic pacts. The more declared interests it can support. More on that also next week. And the more maneuvers it has in diplomatic plays. There will also be more on that. Rank also plays a key role in many other systems, such as subjects, infamy, diplomatic actions, and even more. Some of which we'll get into in the coming weeks. Coming weeks, because it's a diplomacy series now. So France starts the game as the second great power, just behind Britain in prestige. As you can see here, France currently holds the rank of great power, with overall score position number 2 in the world. Current prestige 730. So you can see that Qing Empire, even though it has even more prestige than France, is just below rank because it's not recognized. If the prestige of France is reduced below 219 for an extended time, their rank will decrease to major power. Okay. So we have seen that mechanic at the top here with Qing. They might go to an unrecognized minor power if they're below 55 prestige, which will of course never happen. in a normal world, though. In a normal world. But the world is never normal. So we have that information here. That seems to be... what is that? It's not prestige. You see a lot of things here. Arable land, HM's government, Her Majesty probably. Some anchors. But nothing of that except the rank number here. Says prestige to me, so let's see where it comes from. Prestige, as was mentioned above, plays a central role in all of this. Prestige is what determines who gets to occupy what rank in the global pecking order. So, Victoria 1 and 3, prestige was just one of 3 factors determining what rank a country had. In Victoria 3, prestige is the accumulation of all factors that makes a country more or less glorious. In order to become a certain rank, a country must meet the prestige threshold for that rank, which is based on both how it compares to the global average and percentile-wise compared to the most prestigious country. So there's a look at the current requirements to be a great power that they've introduced into the game. It must be a recognized country, first one. Second, must not be a subject of any other nation, and third, must have at least 3 times the average global prestige, or at least 75% of the prestige of the most prestigious nation. So if all nations are equal, it's very, very easy to become a great power. But if, as it is, there's a great disparity between the nations, then you need at least 3 times the average global prestige. Meaning two things. Number of great powers, major powers, and so on is not fixed to a specific number, as it was in Victoria 1 and 2, where you would always have 8 of each, the G8. And the requirements to maintain and increase the rank will change over the course of the game. A country might start as a great power due to their starting prestige, but then begin quickly falling behind due to economic and military stagnation, eventually being reduced to a major power, even though their actual prestige number never went down, because they just couldn't keep the pace. We have an example here. Persia is able to occupy a rank position above what its economy and army can support through considerable investment into the arts. Let's have a look at that. Prestige of Persia is 127, position is 87. They are of course unrecognized. They do not belong technologically to the Western Hemisphere, so you could say. And you can see they have 20 prestige from an arts academy in Laristan and 20 from an arts academy in Sistan. So art is one thing that gives you prestige. What is it that can give a country prestige, and through prestige reach a rank? A whole lot of things. Here's some examples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 examples, and it's not an exhaustive list. Wow, that's a lot of things you can do. The tier of a country, whether it's considered a city-state, principality, kingdom, or so on, gives it a little bit of base-level prestige. This is inherent to a specific nation and can only be increased by forming a new, more glorious nation. For example, I don't know, from a dukedom to a kingdom or something like that. Having a large army gives prestige, with more prestige being given based on its ability to both fight effectively and look imposing. Yeah. Go military parades! Having a large, powerful and impressive-looking navy gives prestige to an even greater degree than the army. Ships are just bigger than soldiers, right? The total gross domestic product and thus indirectly level of industrialization of a country gives it prestige. The economic power. Subjects contribute prestige to their suzerain based on their military and economic might. So the people that live there. Being a global leader, first, second or third in the production of a good, gives a country prestige. Like if you produce China, you're going to be quite prestigious. With some goods being more prestigious than others. Yeah, probably the most valuable goods give more prestige than other goods. Building and supporting art academies, being a sponsor of the art, as we've seen with Persia, also gives prestige. Successfully undertaking of certain globally recognized projects, such as undertaking major expeditions to certain regions of the world, or the construction of a canal, the Panama Canal, can give a country a permanent increase in its prestige. So here you go, great global wonders. So I think this is a pretty great system. It is dynamic, which is something I really like compared to the old Victoria games, where some parts of it were a little bit static. Now this is a dynamic game where everything can kind of shift. It can shift to extreme positions without doubt, and that's an interesting thing. There could be maybe one only great power there. So that is something that could theoretically happen, and that's fascinating. Like that you have one global leader, or you could have 20 global leaders, who knows? So what will be in the next weeks coming? Several different diplomacy-related mechanics, namely relations, infamy, and interests. I'm also looking forward to that. Always interesting reading these very well-written ones. Dev diaries made here. So thank you for watching. Happy gaming to you. Have a great time until next time, and happy gaming. See you soon. This is Immanuel Can, signing out.